Good evening, everybody. This is Chet Bolingbrook, the CRPG Addict, and today we're taking a look at the Dark Heart of Uukrul, a game from 1989 from Broderbund Software. This is not a company that's terribly well known for its RPGs. This might actually be the only one that they ever made. And as we go through the game, don't expect to hear any sound other than my own voice because they did not program any sound into the game. Now, hopefully you'll agree that they made up for that a little bit with the graphics and some of the gameplay elements that we're going to see. This game has a lot of elements that elevate it above many typical dungeon crawlers of the era, although I suppose that could be good or bad depending on how much you like traditional dungeon crawlers like Wizardry and Dungeon Master. As we begin the game, I am facing the store in the sort of a safe area of the dungeon where you can get various services and buy things. And I want to see if I can get some better weapons for my fighters who do sort of paltry damage in combat these days. There are four characters here: a fighter, Gligwa, a paladin named Invictia, a cleric named Plena Mujer, and a mage named Prufrock. Now, the cleric and the mage each have various spells. In the case of the cleric, those spells are called prayers, and they're organized among the four gods that you see in the lower right-hand corner of the screen. In the case of the mage, those categories are called arcanas, and there are 5 of them that you can see there. And each of the characters has different levels in those spells, represented by the rings to the right of the category names. So there's 5 spell levels, and as you can see, we're about to slightly shy of halfway, basically, through our different spell levels. Now, Gligwa, my fighter, is carrying a broadsword, and Invictia is carrying a short sword. So I'm hoping that we can do a little bit better for them with some purchases here, even though I don't have a lot of gold right now. First, I'm going to sell some things I've been carrying here. A flawed diamond, a gold necklace, and a silver pin. Now, Gligwa is carrying 2 weapons, the short sword and the broadsword. That's because weapons can break during combat, and you always want to have a backup. Everybody's got a second weapon. Invictia's second weapon is her hand axe. Plena Mujer has 3 maces, so I'm going to get rid of one. And Prufrock doesn't have anything extra to sell. So that gives me 765 gold pieces. Let's see what I can buy for that in terms of weapons. So they start there at letter H. That Club of Holy Power is something I will aspire to later on for my cleric. But right now, it looks like I could get a great sword. It's probably the best I'm going to be able to do. Unfortunately, the game doesn't tell you a whole lot about what some of these items are or what they do, so I don't really know what the Killer Blade's particular benefits are. But what I'm going to do is buy a great sword for Invictia. Oh, she can't use that yet. Shoot. Never mind. I need more strength or a higher level. Okay, well, I guess I'll... What is this Killer Blade? Yeah, she can't use that either. Okay, let's try... I'll just give her a broadsword then. It's a step up from the short iron sword anyway. And unfortunately, it doesn't look like I'm going to be able to buy much else of value to my fighters just yet. I'll have to come back when I have more gold. So because she bought that, she can sell her hand axe, and I'll go ahead and equip my new purchase. I did a little bit better than I was anyway. Alright, let's get out of here. So I need to go to a part of the dungeon that's quite far away from where I am now. And I'm going to get there by popping into this sanctuary. There are these sanctuaries scattered around the dungeon where you can rest and where you level up when you have enough experience. I still have quite a bit of experience before I can level up. You can store some items and do a number of other things. I'm going to rest for just a minute here to get my hit points back to normal. There we are. And I'm going to leave via this teleporter, which will take me to another part of the dungeon. The teleporters are a really nice shortcut to prevent you from simply having to wander through miles of corridor that you've already explored. You have to have already been to the teleporter to use it, and you have to know its name in order to get there. So that takes me to another sanctuary. Now, another thing that you can do in sanctuaries is back up the game, which is useful because like Wizardry or many roguelikes, this game saves constantly. It saves every step you take, it saves every time you enter combat, every time you get killed or poisoned, or really anything that happens. So there's no way to quit and then reload and have that unfortunate thing undone. It will save it every time something bad happens or anytime anything happens. So if things really get bollocksed up and you decide you don't want to try to resurrect your characters or whatever you'd have to do, your only option is to restore from your last backup. So it's a useful option to have, something certainly that Wizardry didn't give. And I'm going to leave the sanctuary, and before I continue exploring, I'm going to have Prufrock cast a couple of spells. I'll have him cast Light and Tay, which is Protection. It brings your armor class up a couple of points. And Talus, which keeps search going constantly and thus helps you find secret doors. Now I've reached a stairway going down, and stairways in this game are not like they are in Dungeon Master or other traditional dungeon crawlers where it takes you down to a new level where you have harder monsters or something like that. It doesn't really work that way here. This stairway could take me down to an area where there's only 3 or 4 squares, and then I could easily be heading back up a set of stairs. It's better to think of this dungeon as sort of a sprawling flat plane rather than different levels the way that most dungeons are. Now it's telling me that there are marks on the floor as if something has been dragged south from here. And this is just a minor example. We'll see lots more of where the game tells you a little bit about what you're seeing and what the room looks like and what the environmental variables are, which adds a depth to it that I don't think you find in a lot of other games. It makes it look a lot more like Pool of Radiance than a traditional dungeon crawler. Now obviously in a modern game you'd see the marks in the floor and you'd discern that for yourself, but this was the best they could do with the capabilities of the time. So I'm going to head south, and I come to this door, and it says blood stains and thick webbing on the floor suggest something has been dragged through the door. That also suggests that perhaps the thing that did the dragging was a giant spider. So there might be one waiting for me on the other side of the door. I'll listen. I hear scratching and shuffling, but that's one of the game's ways of telling you don't really hear anything special. I've learned to recognize those. It'll say scratching and shuffling, or let's try you don't hear anything. Occasionally it will tell you hear murmuring voices. Those all mean that there's nothing at all. If there's something to hear, it will be very specific about what it is. Well, and trust me that it wasn't telling me anything, but I did hit a random encounter on the other side of the door. Okay, this is a shapeless mass. I can't remember what it's called once I identify it, but it's a lesser creature, really hardly worthy of my time at this point in the game. I'm surprised this makes up the random encounter. So each combat stage begins with a movement round where you can move your characters exactly 1 square. So it takes a long time sometimes, especially when your enemy isn't moving at all, to get your characters into position. The movement stages are followed by the actual combat stage, where you can cast or swing or whatever, but you have to be right up on the enemy in order to engage him in melee combat, which my characters will not be for another term. turn, but Prufrock can cast a spell at least, and see if I can take him out that way. Oh, he's not the same shapeless mass that I thought he was. He would have gone lost more hit points than that. So I'll cancel more attacks and keep moving closer to him. And he doesn't. There, finally he moved. Okay. Oh, good. So I'm in a good position here because what I can do is have Gligwa move up to his left, and then Invictia can move up underneath him. And they're not going to be able to cast, I don't think. I don't think you can cast through a corner like this, but let's see. No, yeah, it didn't work. But Invictia and Gligwa can swing at him. Now you have to actually be on his side, or on any enemy's side, to swing at them. You can't be in the corner. So Prufrock could not have done a melee attack against him when it was his turn. Well, maybe it was what I thought it was. So he went down in one hit, and you can see I got single-digit experience points, which helped me nothing at all, given I have thousands to go before the next level. It was a weird random encounter to throw at me. At least I got 6 gold pieces for it, so that's not too bad. Oh, in the meantime, my Talus spell has worn off. Let's refresh that. Oh, and I have another random encounter with an orc. Now, rather than, well, actually, why don't you take a look at what auto combat looks like. These orcs aren't terribly difficult, so rather than waste time meticulously plotting the battles myself, I'm just going to turn on auto combat and let the computer move my characters and fight the enemies. This is really useful when I'm in the middle of blogging and I want to be able to write while the game is going on. I can just set the auto combat. So 2 of the orcs just fled, and the 3rd one is about to die. And so in single-digit experience again, another strange random encounter. Good lord, it just keeps throwing them at me. I'm going to pause for this one so you don't have to keep sitting through another lame combat after lame combat. Alright, I'm back, and now I'm at the door at the end of the corridor. I think maybe the reason I was getting so many random combats there, which is more than usual, is because of that spell, which automatically searches for secret doors. I suspect that the game treats that spell's being active as if I was actually hitting the search key on every step, which does increase the chance of random encounters. So I'm very sort of inexperienced with this spell because I just got it. So I probably will not keep it active very often. Easier just to keep hitting search when I actually want to make a search. So we'll listen at this door. Yep, total silence. So we'll move through. Oh, and see, it didn't tell me that there was a giant spider on the other side. Giant black widowed by the look of the hourglass shape on its torso, although it's not black. So I'm guessing this is going to be a pretty difficult one. What I want to try to do is get Plena Mujer out of the way and get my spellcasters in place to fight the spider. So I'm going to move Invictia over first, then Gligwa, and then we'll move Plena Mujer back. And Prufrock can move back as well. And the spider didn't move at all, so I can't make any melee attacks against him this round, but I can try a couple of spells. Now, Plena Mujer's spells, again, are called prayers, and she's got one called Ralcor from the god of war, which shoots a sort of a magic arrow at the creature. But unlike mage spells, there's a chance every time you cast a priest spell or invoke a prayer that the prayer is going to fail, that the god will choose to ignore me. Let's see if that happens here. Yeah, Ufthu decided not to answer my prayer, and so my priest's turn was wasted, as were her prayer points. I'm going to have Prufrock cast a spell called Amras Moor, which is a sort of a firebolt spell, and it didn't do anything to him at all. Okay, he's going to be a tough customer. Let's get Invictia and Gligwa into place, and Plena Mujer over here just in case he decides to come up, which he did. Alright, so now 3 people could engage him in melee combat if I don't want Plena Mujer to try more invocations. So let's see if I can strike him down. 15 damage. 3 damage, not very good. Ooh, and Plenimohair takes a bunch of damage. Let's try another Amras Moor and see if that last one was a fluke. He went down a little bit in hit points, but not enough to justify the spell points, so I won't be casting that again. It looks like this is going to be a long melee fight. I don't really have any other spells from Prufrock that target one enemy with damage, so I think I'll try to move him in place to actually engage in melee combat. And this is just going to be a matter of taking them down slowly by striking. So far the spider hasn't poisoned any of my characters, which is unusual. This is one of the tougher monsters that I've ever faced in terms of the damage that I'm doing, or not doing. Usually they go down in at least 3 or 4 hits. But all of my hits are doing, if they hit at all, are doing very low damage. Oh, and now Invictia gets poisoned. Not only is she poisoned, but he took her hit points down to the critical level. So I'm going to have Prufrock cast a spell called Schumer, which won't cure the poison. I don't have anything that cures the poison, but it will at least raise her hit points back up. The poison wears off eventually on its own, so I just need to keep casting healing spells on her until it wears off. Boy, we're not having a lot of luck here. Okay, Plenimohair is going to invoke a Karn prayer. Hopefully Ufthu will, yes, Ufthu listened, and you didn't see it because it happened so fast, but it struck him with sort of a magic hammer and took his hit points down quite far. Hoping I can kill him with melee damage, but none of my characters seem capable of inflicting any. Oh, good lord, people. Let's try Ralcor again. Oh good, that one worked too, and notice that he went down significantly there too. He's almost dead. Could you fighters please just take him out? There we go. So he's gone. Okay, so now I've got my experience point rewards. And it supposedly bases your experience points on how many useful things you did during the combat. So Plenimohair, who did the most damage probably, and Invictia, who struck the killing blow, both got the highest amount of experience. Gligwa, who kept missing, didn't get much, but Prufrock didn't do that much damage either, and he got higher than Gligwa. So I don't understand half of the calculations that they use to determine experience points. All I know is I've never gotten none, so there must be some minimum percentage that you get no matter how little you contribute. I found some treasure, 132 gold pieces, and a silver pin, which I can sell. And it looks like there's a key in this chamber, which will probably open some grate nearby, so I'll go ahead and pick that up. Now let's take a look at the map. You can see the door that I came in to the south, and there I am in the center of the room. So the squares at each tile space indicate that I've explored that square. So I'll quickly go around the room and make sure I step in every square, search some obvious places, just in case there's any treasure to be found. Doesn't look like it. So I'll go through this door and continue on. There's a grating there. That's probably where the key comes in handy. Before I go there, I'm going to head down here where there's a skull on the ground. You find skulls and bones everywhere, and I think they're just worthless, but occasionally I pick them up just to be sure. Nothing to be searched there. Now notice Invictia's health has gotten pretty low because of her poison, so again, I'll just have Prufrock cast tumor to get her back up a little bit. Actually, that worked out pretty well. She got fully restored, and hopefully that poison will wear off pretty soon. In the meantime, I probably shouldn't have Prufrock cast any more spells in combat, because I need to save his spell points. Okay, we're at this grate here, and I open it by trying my keys, and one of them worked, and the grate opened up. And on the other side of the grate is some sort of message on the wall. Actually, it's a map. Okay. If I'm not mistaken, that is a map of the area that I'm in right now. Except what it's showing me is that there's something unknown, represented by the question marks, in the space that I haven't been to beyond the walls. So that's a strong suggestion that there's a secret door on the other side of this wall here. Okay, it's not here, so maybe I've got to fight some orcs first. I'm going to pause this one. And combat's just finished up. And during the middle of combat, the poison wore off of Invictia, so that was nice. Alright, so here we are. So I was searching the walls around that empty space. Here it is. Okay, I found the secret door in the north wall. So opening the door involves a couple of different options. There are certain secret doors in this game that you can't open without a prayer that is bestowed by the god Drotho, I believe, which I don't have yet. So if this is one of those, I won't be able to get through. But at first I like to look for a device to see if there's a way, a hidden catch to open it or something. But it doesn't look like it. So then we can try to force the door. And every time you try to force it, your hit points go down a bit. Watch Gligwaz up there as I try to force it a second time. So I'm making progress forcing it, but it's being stubborn. There we go. And I go through. And now I'm in the secret area, where I have found a small velvet purse with money in a pile of animal dung. I'm glad I bothered to kick it. So I don't know how much was in there. It doesn't really ever tell you. Sometimes you're just happily surprised later on when you notice you gained a few hundred gold pieces at some point. So I think that takes care of this little branch. Yep. So let's return to that corridor where I first heard about the spider. Here's another combat, which I'll skip. So as you can see, as you rejoin me, I was a little bit cocky going into that battle, and I wish you could have actually, I wish I hadn't paused it, because you could have seen how difficult it was. I was facing a group of black orcs who are very, very difficult melee opponents. And the game tends to just throw them at me at weird places when otherwise the foes have been somewhat easy in the same area. And so two of my characters are dead, and one of them is in critical condition. At least I can take care, oh no, I can't take care of the one in critical condition because he's too critical to use any healing. So what I have to do is see if I can make it back to the sanctuary without dying, and that means without facing any more difficult random encounters. Thank God for that. And for his death, Gligwaz at least managed to advance to the next level. It kind of helps when you get almost all the experience for a difficult battle, and everybody else is dead. I'm just going to rest for a few minutes while Prufrock recuperates. It's not going to help the dead characters, of course. And then I'm going to leave the sanctuary via the teleporter and head back to that shop area where I started. Want to go the other way. This is where I can find the mausoleum where I can resurrect my dead characters for 190 gold pieces. She made it, but she lost some experience points, which sucks because experience points are fairly precious in this game, and and you definitely don't want to lose them. Oh, and Mujer, in addition to losing experience points, also lost piety. Now, she could ill afford to lose piety because half of her spells were failing anyway. She lost one piety point. She had 12 when we began this adventure, so not a great way to have this video, but at least you can see a little bit of what happens when unfortunate things happen in the game. So we'll heal just a little bit. Back up, and then get back out there. Now, at this point, what I'll do is I'm just going to pause the recording, and I'm only going to bring it back on when something particularly interesting happens or when I have something else to illustrate. So the rest of this video, which will only be about 5 minutes, is going to be fairly disjointed, but it will show you some sort of random things about the game. Okay, I'm in an area where there's something I'd like to illustrate. When I go through this door, I have a special encounter with a wizard here, and normally enemy spellcasters I fear. I don't like them. They can damage you pretty good, but the room that it makes me fight in here is so small that there really isn't much danger to my party. And this guy, for whatever reason, seems to be in love with melee combat, even though he's a wizard, so he's not maximizing the potential damage that he could do to me. And he goes down in a couple of blows. Now he offers some pretty good experience, not great experience. I'd have to fight him, I don't know, 20 times in order to get my next level up. But here's the important thing. He has some pretty good cash. And so, I'm obviously trying to build up my money fairly quickly here to get better weapons and better armor. And he's also got a key. Now that key is going to be important to open some door later on, so you'd think that I want to take it. But I found this purely by accident when I accidentally hit return too quickly a number of battles ago. If I choose to leave the key, and then I leave the room, when I go back into the room, I can fight the guy again. So if I like the experience reward I get, or the gold reward that I get, then I might want to keep repeating the combat. Maybe that's cheating. I don't know. I think it probably is a little bit. But I am fighting him. I mean, it's not like I'm not legitimately expending spell points and putting myself in danger. So I might repeat this battle 3 or 4 times before I finally take the key. And once I take the key, then it's all over and he doesn't appear in the room anymore. The game frequently gives you clues in the form of messages on the wall, but this one is one that I'm having real trouble understanding. It says, "Fear alone is the hangman," and it has a bunch of blanks as if this is a game of hangman, and I'm trying to guess what appears in those blanks, but nothing comes to mind, obviously. So I'm going to take a screenshot of this and ponder it when I have a chance. Fear alone is the hangman. So is it giving me a clue as to a word that's describing what is fear alone? Or is that hangman's noose an actual, sort of like a representation of a dungeon map? It doesn't look completely different from one, so it's really hard to tell. But anyway, this might come in handy later on. Here's an inscription on the wall that isn't translated. It's in some Orcish or Ukrulian or alien tongue, and so there's a couple ways I can translate it. I have a Ingos spell that Prufrock has, but instead of using that, I'm going to try to do it with the Umesh prayer, because I need favor from Drutho, and I think repeatedly using his prayers is the way to get it, although it's not working for me, and in fact he just smited me for bothering him. Now apparently he is not going to want to answer my prayer. Come on. Alright, well, that didn't work. So I have to translate it with the spell Engos. Now this one, like most of them, requires multiple castings. My first was of the forming, and lies forever still. Some kind of clue for something later on. I don't know what it is, so I'm just going to record it and move on. I didn't realize I was going to encounter this part during this session while I was making this recording, but this is actually a key part of the main plot. I have found a secret door that led me into this area where Sagarus, a key NPC in the game, he had told me ahead of time that he wanted my help getting access to something in a pool, and so suddenly he's just appeared and told me that we're at the pool, and this is where he needs my help. He's saying now that since he's not a cleric, he can't continue forward, but apparently I can, since I have a cleric in my party. And it's indicating that Plena Mujer can hold back the malevolence, the evil, that is in this room. Here's another inscription on the wall that I'll have to translate. For all is told herein, tell me, priest, what may I be? Okay, so about a half hour has passed since the last word that you heard me say. It took me a while to figure out what I'm supposed to do here. It turns out that there's a secret door here in the east wall, but no looking for a device, nor forcing it will do anything to open the door. It turns out the key is to say a particular passcode, which actually relates to that hangman diagram and the inscription that I showed you a little while ago. I'll cover exactly the nature of the riddle on my blog, but the word that I want to speak here is faith, which causes the door to open. There's a pool of bubbling liquid in a recess in the floor. Sagarus appears, and he urges Plena Mujer to have faith and to reach into the pool. I'm tempted to refuse, just to see what happens. I might save it, back it up later on, and reload it from the last backup, and come back here and refuse just to see how it goes. But for now, I'll reach into the pool, and I found a cylinder, which I guess he took it, but see, I don't have it, do I? No. But he left me a wand. No, okay. So that was actually a key plot element, I think, in the game. It was telegraphed to me some time ago, so I don't know what wand I just found. What the wand I just found is, but it's probably going to come in handy later, and I needed to go by that step to win somehow. So I'm glad I was able to show that in the video. Video's getting pretty long, so I think I'll wrap it up now. But you've seen a lot of the gameplay elements now of the Dark Heart of Uukrul. And I hope that you have a pretty good sense of the game and that you enjoyed it. Keep reading for the rest of the game, and I'll be back with another video when I win. But until now, this is Chet Bolingbrook signing off.